Landmarks Commission hearing to order. Today is January 15th, 2025, and the time is 12:30. Begin with a roll call of the commissioners. We'll start over to my left and just go through. Thank you. Roll call, and state if there's any conflicts of interest.
David Ammett, no conflicts or interests. Is that what I say?
Of interest.
Of interest, okay.
Susan Kruger Barber, no conflicts of interests.
Marcy Lemonnier, no conflicts.
Jeff Ringer, no conflict.
Eric Carter, no conflicts.
Jesse Embry, no conflicts.
Scott Bingham, no conflicts.
Wendy Allman, also no conflicts.
Okay, so we'll begin with item 1, the 2025 CLG grant proposal for a rehabilitation project for the Provo Community Church Cornerstone Restoration Project. And I believe that, Dustin, you have the presentation, so we'll turn the time over to you.
All right, thank you. So we have come to you last month with a request to put the library on as our CLG grant applicant this year. There's a change of plans with that. And so they aren't able to move forward. They got their bid back and it was substantially higher than they had been prepared for. What's that? Yeah. Sorry, I don't know what changed it, but anyway, yeah. So this is yeah, the library wasn't able to go forward with that, and so the grant application we reached back out to the community church that we approved for the last one, and let them know because they still had interest. So they applied and it didn't get approved, but they still have that interest. So since we don't have anyone else lined up for this grant cycle, I invited them back to apply for this one. So they would like to do that. And here's kind of what they're looking to do. It's the property on 175 North University Avenue, the church there. They would like to focus on updating or doing some repair work on the Spanish colonial building there. So not the church one on the very corner, but the connected building there. They would like to do some stucco repairs, as you can see, and I'll show you some more slides kind of showing the condition of that, but they'd like to repair that stucco that's been failing over the years. And so they've been working with their architect to come up with a plan to do that, to be able to apply a mesh overlay and to then add a new top coat of stucco over that to help prevent the cracks and everything from coming back through there. And so here's some other images that they've provided that show kind of the current condition and what they'd be looking to repair with this grant. And so they've and they're also here if you have any specific questions for them. But yeah, we'd like to get your approval to kind of move forward with the application for the CLG grant, for the upcoming CLG grant for the community church to do this project.
Thank you, Dustin. Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments for Dustin?
Dustin, do we have any sense why this application was turned down in 2024, and will the 25 application address those?
Yeah, so the CLG grant is a competitive grant, so it goes across the whole state, and so they get several applications, but there's a limited amount of money that they can allocate, so they have to turn some down to, they can only do so many, and so this unfortunately was one that didn't get approved, so putting it back in, giving them another opportunity in this grant cycle.
So the decision turned down last year didn't come back with any criticisms of the application or anything that could be addressed this year? It was
No, it didn't.
Okay.
I think their focus on the last one was more on the rural parts of the state. And so I think they kind of focused um, those funds towards those projects. And so I think I'm not sure what their plan is in this one as far as if that's going to be another thing that they're looking at or not. But yeah, we didn't get any specific things of, this project didn't pass because of this or something. I think it's a competitive grant to apply for. So
Okay, and one other clarification here, the time of original construction was it was stucco over brick at the time of the original construction of the building, right? The stucco wasn't added later, or do we know?
that's my understanding. I know the property owner, the church here, has a lot more information than I do, so that'll be a good question for them.
Any other questions for Dustin, David?
Yeah, well, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was curious, like you were asking about the brick. And so when was this building built?
I believe it was in the early 20s.
Oh, okay.
If I may.
Yes.
The building was constructed in 1923, completed in 24, and just celebrated its 100-year anniversary March of last year. The original construction is brick with a stucco overlay.
Because I guess that was my thought, is the brick underneath it good enough that where you could take off the stucco and do that? That was just a question.
We've actually had a couple of different thought processes with contractors on this. One of those was to completely remove all stucco on both buildings. That is a very expensive and labor-intensive process. The other method was to remove the areas that are failing, as you can see in the photos, particularly on the west side of the building, and then do an infill of those spaces and then do the mesh overlay to protect the entire building. And then they do a top coat over that. A lot less expensive process, but also would work with the historical aspect, which is what we're trying to preserve with the building. Its construction in the 20s and then adding on to in the 1950s, there were architectural elements that were pulled off of the building, either due to decay or trying to homogenize the buildings, because the Spanish colonial was not in vogue in the 1950s. So they pulled some of those details away that we are trying to reinstate on the building. And so at this point, we're focused on preserving stucco from getting worse. As you can see, there's some significant areas that have blistered and pulled away, and a lot of it is from a freeze-thaw cycle. At some point before I was at the building, which has been 12 years now, they painted the building, which is not the best solution for stucco or brick, and so it's caused water to get inside of that and to freeze and thaw and then blister.
Before we let you sit back down, do you mind just stating your full name and city of
Sure.
residence for the record?
Sure. My name is David Lewis. I am I have a lot of hats there, but I am the chairperson at the church, the moderator, and I also co-chair with Ken and Matthews here for Keeping the Faith in Downtown Provo, which is our preservation project.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, Dave, before you sit down, could I just ask I guess the timeline on CLG grants is about 2 years, right? Would you be able to use this $10,000 if it came your way within that time period and finish the project, or would additional fundraising need to be made, or?
So our ultimate project has about a $10 million price tag on it. And so the stucco is a very small part of that, but it's also an integral part of that. Of that 10 million, we've already raised $1 million of that, and that went to replacing all the roofs on the building. So that has stopped water penetration, which was part of the photos. Don't have a screen. But that's part of the damage that was caused was from roof failure, water as well. The CLG money would be able to help us address the critical parts of that. And that's what we're focused on right now, is stopping any further damage. That was also the point of starting with the roofs as well.
So the CLG money would go specifically to, let's say, patching the stucco that is
The failing
most
stucco,
critically
particularly
in
on
need of
on the west
attention.
side, but there are a few other areas, but the west side is by far the worst. You've been there many times, and we have had multiple sections just this winter that are coming down because there's nothing really holding them in place at this point.
So in summary, finishing this, at least patching, piecemeal patching would not be an issue in the 2-year cycle that this grant
No.
has. Okay.
Before I sit down,
Dave, one more thing. I'm sorry, I was trying to find the button. My name's Scott Bingham. I have some questions. I'm just curious, this might not be part of the application, but how will the details be preserved? We're seeing in the top middle here, we have a plaster sill, right? So there's
Right.
plaster details that are going around the windows, even on the left image, top left image, there's those details going around. How, if we're doing an overlay of stucco, how will they preserve the crispness of those details? And also as it returns into the window, if we're adding another layer, then the mullions around the windows are going to be reduced. I'm just wondering how, if you guys
So-
have thought through that.
yeah, traditional plaster is quite thick. And so if we were to remove all of the plaster on the building or the stucco, that would be one process. This process is a lot less invasive, and that overlay, once the damaged areas are patched, that mesh is fairly thin, and then the plaster work, from my understanding, is only about 1/4 of an inch.
Mhm.
So it goes over the top of that and gives it still that new look without losing the details of the architectural style that's there.
Yeah, I'm
in
just,
in the 50s, you'll actually see in some of these photos that there's a fairly heavy texture on the building that was not original,
Oh,
because they
interesting.
sprayed plaster on the old building to kind of homogenize it again with the 1950s section where they did stucco over there as well.
okay.
So the original texturing of the building is actually fairly smooth on the south side where they didn't do that, but
Hmm.
it's in the alleyway that nobody sees.
Okay. Yeah, that would be the one thing that, well, I guess it's a personal thing because that's the first thing I see on buildings is details.
Yes. And I come from an interior design background.
Okay.
So I am very detail oriented to the point of annoying people. Sorry, Kenna. But
We're
that-
best friends then.
Yes. Well, architects and interior designers aren't always friends, but
Well, they can be.
But my goal with this is really to preserve and restore the architectural integrity of the space. The building originally had brackets all along the roof line. They were for the gutters. Those were pulled off in the 20s. Actually, the original roof was pulled off in 1927 because it was falling in on itself, and they rebuilt it in 1927. So some of those things that we see in the original blueprints that we have possession of, we want to restore on the east side of the building. The photos you're seeing are on the west side where they have the plaster detail. On the east side of the building on University Avenue, it's actually terracotta. And those are still in place, but they have multiple layers of paint over them that we would like to bring the coloring and the styling back of those as well. Oh, look, there's a screen in front of me here. I didn't see that before.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's
Yep.
all I had.
Any other questions for Dave? Thank you.
Can I just comment?
Oh,
Is that
Sure.
okay? Not a question? I just want to say how valuable this church, both churches are to the downtown community. Again, it's the place where everyone can participate. Now it's a gathering space. I've been thinking about The Undercommons, a book I read by Fred Moten about people who don't have a place to go in the commons and the parks and other places, and how we need undercommons places in Provo, and this is a third space. I think of this as a place in between the undercommons and the commons, if that makes sense, where people who don't quite fit in get to have a place to fit in, and you're deeply valued, and I hope this goes forward. And it's a place I love walking by many times a week, even now with it crumbling down. And I'm excited for you. Hope it goes through.
I think formally we offer public comment if anyone else would like to say anything. Okay. And as there's no one present for public comment, then we will move forward with entertaining motions and discussions.
I guess I motion that we approve this project.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
oh,
Yes.
I,
Aye.
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 Yes.
So that's a unanimous vote and the motion. Thanks. So item number 1, the 2025 CLG grant proposal for rehabilitation project for the Provo Community Church Cornerstone Restoration Project passes with unanimous vote. Thank you. So then item number 2 for the day will be the election of a new chair and vice chair for the Landmarks Commission.
And if I may, so we have 2 alternates on our commission. So Marcy and Wendy are alternates, so they wouldn't be ones that we would select as chair, vice chair. So you're off the hook.
Thanks, Dustin.
Can I just ask, who is the vice chair? Are you interested, are you both of you, I assume, interested in continuing to serve? Maybe not. I don't know, maybe just hearing from you guys would be nice.
I'm willing to continue serving, but I'm also not opposed if anyone else wants the chance.
And I think they would be nice we have so many new commissioners that they were vice chair. So, I mean, I've been on the commission many times over the years. And so if someone like you would be interested in being vice chair, that would be great.
I guess I would be interested, but I'm also interested in knowing who else is interested. And, you know, if someone has more experience on the commission, that would be interesting too.
I like your enthusiasm of what the commission might be able to do. And some of us are kind of old hats and tired.
Renew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've continued chairs in the past, so if you would clarify that. Yeah.
Maybe I could just take advantage of the time just to talk about some ideas I have. I have lived in Provo now for 10 years. One of the highlights of each year for me was the home tour. I think that there are dozens of neighborhoods that have never been highlighted by the Landmark Commission in that home tour, and I'd love to bring them back, highlighting maybe some of the mid-century neighborhoods. Provo has a wealth of mid-century architecture. I think it would be interesting to get some social media. There are a lot of my friends in Salt Lake. Rachel Salt Lake City has an Instagram feed, Historic Salt Lake City. They're always posting things that help, I think, the residents get really engaged with the local community and the historic built environment. I don't know if it seems like at one time we did a lecture series.
well, that was my neighborhood, Jess.
Oh, that was, well, maybe calling on some of those people to talk to the larger community.
There was always a
community.
lecture in connection with the house tour.
Okay, was that how it worked? I don't know, just Provo has so many cool things happening historically. I guess they happened. They're not, but they still are happening because these buildings still stand. It would just be fun to highlight them and get the public very engaged with the historic built environment. And I think this is the body to do that. One other thing I really feel quite strongly about, I think it's great that the CLG grant is available for the library or the community church to use, but most other cities, especially cities of Provo size, are able to use that CLG grant to advance the interests of the committee itself, the Landmark Commission. So to get a matching grant from the city of $10,000 every 2 years, I don't think is a big ask. And it's not even every 2 years because, as Dustin stated, the CLG grant is competitive. So it might be every 4 years that we get $10,000 to put a neighborhood on the National Register or advance the interests of this committee more generally through surveys or something like that. So anyway, those are some of my ideas.
And I can comment a little bit about that. So I was on the commission many, many years ago, and we actually did some surveys, one level and then next level for some of the neighborhoods over time. And so that is a possibility. And there used to be more people interested in having their houses on the register. So how the landmarks, we used to meet in the evenings, and we used to have lots of houses under consideration, but that hasn't been lately because, it's often we don't have meetings because there's nothing on the agenda. So your ideas are good ones to be able to expand the operation.
Okay, I can just jump in. Sandy Wilmoth, for the record. Chair and vice chair are not to succeed themselves per Provo City Code. And as far as social media, we can work with Development Services social media team if you are interested in doing that.
Yeah, it'd be
We can try
great
to
if
schedule
this was
something.
done in conjunction with Provo City as opposed
Yeah.
to being an independent act.
Yeah, absolutely.
I nominate David Ammett for president.
No.
President or chair?
For chair.
I second.
All right, let's put that to a vote then.
I don't want to have to vote for myself.
I vote for yourself.
Sure. Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye for me.
Aye.
Aye.
That's a yes for me. I love your ideas.
Great.
Okay, great. I don't know if I talked to Dustin during the lunch hour about going to the city council and asking for a CLG appropriation. Does anyone mind if I just go ahead and do that? If I ask what the process is, even to get that money? And this really won't be an issue until next year, when we could possibly get $10,000 from the city council as an appropriation for advancing the interests of historic preservation. So I guess we have, 11 more months to work on this, but I just like to start on the process to even see if the city council is interested at all. It doesn't seem like a big ask. It seems like this is an ask we should be able to get.
I have no idea what the city council or the mayor feels about historic preservation. So, but it would be good to know.
Yeah, okay. If there are no objections, and if there are, I'm happy to hear them. But I will just go ahead and proactively contact city council about that on behalf of this whole body.
And to your
Great.
earlier point, I think there's opportunities in the mid-century neighborhoods. When Jesse and I mean, we've been involved in this in a long time. The focus is typically been on the downtown core area, turn of the century homes, partly because when we first began doing this, the mid-century homes weren't the minimum 50 years. Oh, we're past that now for most of those homes. So I think that's a real opportunity. And it's a way to, I think, create some enthusiasm in new parts of town.
And we really are losing those mid-century. They're being remodeled at a pretty aggressive rate. I don't know if we'd be interested in doing a home tour this year. if that could even be on the schedule for, it's usually happens around the Freedom Festival.
We do it in
right?
conjunction with the Freedom Festival historically, yeah.
So I don't know if people are interested in doing it this year or.
Well, I used to live on 200 East, over there. All those, you know what
Yeah.
we're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And, we love that street, and a lot of us were part of that when it was before COVID was the last time that I know of. And so, I know they all did it. The Stilsons, the Sorensons, we're all part of that. I know there's several people that would like to do it.
Okay,
I myself would be willing to offer my space as well.
that's great. Maybe I could.
Let's wrap up vice chair
Okay.
Oh,
and then totally have this discussion. I'm on board with it. I just want to make sure we're getting through that.
Thanks, Sandy. Do we have any nominations for the vice chair?
I think you should be the vice chair, but I can't see your full name with with how the thing is. So, yay, that's what I thought. Okay, I nominate Eric Carter to be vice chair.
I second.
Does it allow to switch from?
Yes.
Okay. So then let's put the nominee to a vote.
yes.
I
Aye.
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 I,
Yes.
So
Okay,
Susan,
So
I just had a question. Susan made the motion and who seconded?
I did.
Thanks.
thanks, Dustin. That indicates then a new chair of David Ammett and vice chair of Eric Carter pass with unanimous vote. Okay.
Really quick, can we give a big thank you to you for
Jesse, as
everything you've
always.
done?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Jesse.
There you go.
So the previous discussion that was being had
I've got one more idea I just want to try on all of you to just get your response. I was traveling one summer down the Mississippi River. I happened into this tiny town with a historic district, and they had the coolest house tour. Not only did they have some of the buildings open, some of the buildings weren't, but they had musicians on front porches, in backyards, playing different types of music. It was like walking through a radio. And you could just change the channel, change the station by going from one house to another. They had posters, you know, explaining the historic importance of the house. Anyway, I just thought it was the coolest idea. And I just wondered if this musical element, if we could find enough bands, which we're a college town, so we should have plenty of bands. Whether they're good or not is almost beside the point. Would you be interested in introducing this sort of musical element just to even attract more people and get more people engaged in the built environment?
I would personally, and I actually know some really good people that would be good porch band people.
I think, I mean, some people may want to open up their houses. Other people may just be comfortable with someone playing on their porch or in their backyard. And it just allows for a wider variety of resources to be highlighted, as well as adding this other element of entertainment. So I don't know, maybe I'll be contacting some of you about that.
So I like the idea because it's another layer, right?
Yeah.
We're used to the house tours. What we're not used to is that additional layer of radio, as you put it, right?
Well,
The
and
music.
there was all sorts of fundraising happening. The cheerleader
Yeah.
squad was selling candy to raise funds to, I don't know, go to Topeka for their big cheerleading event, or I don't know, there could be, I don't know, we could make this huge or we could keep it small, you know, but I just thought that other element was really fun.
Yeah.
And kind of a creative way to get people engaged.
And I think there were a lot of people like you that went on the tour. And in my neighborhood, there were not that many houses that were willing to open up, but we did do a pamphlet that explained buildings so they could look at them from the outside. And that's sort of what we did during COVID, after COVID was we did the churches and had a lecture
Yeah.
in the community church.
Oh, that's cool.
Potentially to continue these types of discussions kind of in between commission hearings, Sandy or Dustin, is there a way that we can get an updated list of contact information for each other on the commission? Great. That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Could that be put on the agenda of some of the things we've been talking about, have a meeting, even if there's not something else on the agenda?
Or it could be held in the pre-meeting. Yeah.
Rather than a full public hearing. Yeah. Great. Any other last minutes of this or last minute items of discussion, I suppose?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Beat me to it.
Should I just one thing on that question you just asked? Should we plan on next month meeting and having a discussion to kind of continue a dialogue and come up with some plans for 2024? We can just have a discussion item, or 2025. Sorry,
I'm in
have
favor
a
of that.
discussion item and can just keep going with some of these good ideas and make some plans on when to start contacting certain people about a home tour, things like that.
And what would we have to do to get back on the Freedom Festival schedule?
Yeah, I think the general feeling is that we'd be in favor of having a study session.
Okay.
Is that something that we need to formally propose and vote on and all of that?
No,
Or can we
I'll just do that as staff will just schedule that for our next
Okay.
meeting. So
Wonderful.
there's nothing to vote on there.
So we had a motion to adjourn and a second, so we vote.
I vote to adjourn.
Me too.
Aye.
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 Yes.
Vote to adjourn is unanimous and this hearing is ended. Thank you.